This is a Mayluna Media production.
Hey, and welcome to Synaptic Soul, the podcast where science meets spirit, and we get real about the beautiful and brutal and magical mess of being human. I'm your host, Ava Marie Anderson, writer, mystic, multidimensional mischief maker. Quick disclaimer, you may hear the occasional snort, sigh, dramatic flop from my two French bulldogs, Rocky and Rambo. They're the soundtracks of my life, my soul companions, and honestly, the real stars of the show. Someday we'll dedicate a full episode to their role in my daily rituals, emotional healing, and wild spiritual life. But for now, just know that they're always close by, snoring their support. Let's dive in. All right, bro, let's start with this. October has always felt different, hasn't it? Like the air itself is heavier, not in a bad way, but in that I can feel something swirling just beyond the edges of my reality kind of way. Like people talk about the veil being thin this time of year, but I want to strip that woo-woo glitter off that phrase and get into the nerdy and grounded and biological truth of what is actually going on inside your body and brain when spooky season rolls around. Because yes, it is mystical, but it's also backed by science. And you know I'm not about to let you think that you are just out here vibing on fairy dust alone. So here's the deal. October is what anthropologists and psychologists call a liminal time. Liminal comes from the Latin word limen, meaning threshold. So think of it as the hallway between rooms, that in-between space. It's not summer anymore, and it's not fully winter yet, and your body knows it. The days shorten, the temperature drops, and your circadian rhythm, which is that internal clock that regulates sleep and hormones and even mood, it starts shifting gears. And the change doesn't just affect you when you get sleepy, it also changes how your brain functions. So when the nights get longer, your pineal gland, which is that little pine cone shaped gland smack in the middle of your brain, it starts pumping out more melatonin. And melatonin isn't just your sleep hormone. It influences dream states and memory processing and altered states of consciousness. So more melatonin equals your brain being nudged into dreamier, more liminal awareness. So in other words, your biology is conspiring to put you into a psychic mood, whether you ask for it or not. It's like a free upgrade to your intuitive Wi-Fi signal. You didn't order it, but here it is. And let's not ignore the amygdala. That's that almond-shaped part of your brain responsible for processing emotion and, importantly, for threat detection. Research shows that during seasonal transitions, our amygdala activity spikes because our brains are basically on alert for environmental change. So, translation, you are more sensitive and more aware of the subtle shifts in your surroundings, and also more likely to pick up on the invisible vibes in a room. And this is why October can feel charged, like your nervous system is lit up like a jack-o'-lantern. And now, anthropologists have studied this phenomenon in rituals and community practices for centuries. Like humans throughout history have been drawn to liminal spaces and times, like dusk and dawn and crossroads and equinoxes and seasonal shifts, because these were moments when the ordinary rules of reality felt suspended. And when the rules loosen, the psychic channels open. We enter what some scholars call threshold consciousness. And that state where your brain is more receptive to non-ordinary experiences. Like you're not hallucinating, you're not crazy, but you are accessing information outside of the standard five senses. And this is the same mechanism behind why so many people report seeing apparitions or having mystical dreams in October. It's not just the costumes and the scary movies planting ideas into your head. It is your nervous system being biologically primed for liminality. So let's break this down a little bit. You are not suddenly witchy because you lit a pumpkin spice candle and you watched Hocus Pocus. You are seasonally psychedelic. Your body is literally designed to respond to these environmental cues in a way that primes you for altered perception. And this is why you're dreaming about your dead grandma or suddenly knowing who's about to text you. It's not coincidence, it's threshold season. And let me just blow your mind a little bit more. Neuroscientists have discovered that when humans go through periods of uncertainty or transition, our brains actually seek patterns more aggressively. And this is survival mechanism. So back in the day, it helped our ancestors notice when a shadow in the forest meant predator versus just a branch. But in modern life, this heightened pattern detection often shows up as synchronicities or intuitive hits or those weird little deja vu moments. Your brain is in hyperdrive connecting the dots. And if you pair that with the spiritual perspective, well, that is your psychic channel tuned to volume 11. So when people say the veil is thin in October, they're not totally wrong. They're just describing in mystical language what's happening biologically and neurologically. Your circadian rhythm, your melatonin, your amygdala activity, and your pattern seeking brain are literally conspiring to make you more open to subtle information. And when you combine that with the collective vibe, because let's be real, the entire culture leans into the spooky and the mystical and liminal energy of this time of year, you get a powerful psychic cocktail. The external rituals reinforce the internal biology, and then suddenly you are more intuitive than you have been all year. So let's recap this first download. October is the ultimate liminal lab. Your biology is shifting. Your brain is primed for altered states, and your consciousness is more porous than usual, which means, yes, your psychic gifts feel supercharged right now, but not because the universe randomly decided to drop fairy glitter on you. It's because you're hardwired to dance with liminality, and October just happens to be the perfect stage. So, if you've been wondering why your dreams are getting weirder, or why you're picking up on vibes more strongly, or why you keep seeing repeating numbers everywhere, science says, yeah, bro, that tracks. The veil isn't just thin, your brain is thin walled, open, receptive, and ready for all those downloads. So buckle up because that's just the first layer of what's happening in this season. Let's be real. This whole October veil is thin thing didn't come out of your Pinterest witch board. Cultures across the planet, across millennia, clocked this month as strange and powerful and downright otherworldly. Our ancestors weren't just huddled around bonfires telling ghost stories for kicks, they were actively mapping cosmic and agricultural and energetic cycles. And every single one of them circled this part of the year in a permanent Sharpie. It is liminal as hell. Like, take the Celts. Samhain, which basically is the OG Halloween, wasn't just an excuse to dress in deer antlers and scare your neighbors. It marked the end of the harvest season and the beginning of the dark half of the year. To them, the boundaries between the worlds blurred. But here's what's fascinating. Modern historians and archaeologists are discovering that this wasn't superstition so much as a deeply intelligent way of acknowledging how humans interact with the cycles of light and darkness and death. The Celts built entire ritual systems around harnessing the heightened psychic and ancestral access of the season. Bonfires weren't just about warmth, they were energetic beacons designed to call in protection and guidance from the other side. And it wasn't just the Celts. Like, let's jet on over to ancient Egypt because their entire spiritual calendar pivoted around liminal thresholds. October fell in the season of Akhet, the flooding of the Nile, the literal lifeblood of Egyptian civilization. So floodwaters receded around this time, leaving the fertile ground, which symbolized rebirth after death. Like, what do we see again? Ancestors and gods and humans mingling during transition points. Festivals honoring Osiris, the god of death and resurrection, often overlapped in this liminal season because even the Egyptians understood when cycles end, doorways open. And then, meanwhile, over in Mesoamerica, the Aztecs and later the Mayans had festivals that eventually became what we now know as Dia de los Muertos. Like, these weren't morbid celebrations, they were joyful communions with the dead. Families set up altars with food and flowers and offerings, not because it was cute or insta-worthy, but because they knew the veil was thinner and their beloved dead could actually cross over and partake. Like, these cultures weren't afraid of death, they were in an ongoing conversation with it. And October was the hotline month. And even early Christianity, which, let's be honest, it tried to sanitize and absorb a lot of these pagan traditions, but it couldn't resist marking this season. All Hallows Eve, All Saints' Day, and All Souls' Day, so October 31st through November 2nd, is basically a 3-day liminal festival of death and connection. The church slapped its stamp on it, but the bones of the practice are the same. It's ancestors and spirits and liminal doorways. And now let's layer in some science because I can't resist. So, Earth's geomagnetic activity, like the natural fluctuations of the planet's magnetic field, it tends to spike in transitional seasons. Solar wind streams hit Earth differently in autumn, creating auroras, yes, but also the subtle shifts in the electromagnetic soup that we're all swimming in. And what does this mean for you? Well, your nervous system, which is sensitive to electromagnetic fields, becomes more reactive. Animals migrate with this stuff. Birds literally navigate using geomagnetics. Like, who's to say that your intuition doesn't get dialed up when the planet's field is humming differently? And if the geese can follow an invisible magnetic map to get to Florida, you can probably pick up when your dead aunt is trying to drop you a sign. But here's where it gets juicier. Anthropologists argue that these cultural festivals weren't just about honoring ancestors, they were technology, spiritual technology. Rituals created coherence and focus and resonance that made it easier to perceive what was already there. Like the fire and the chanting and the offering, those weren't random acts. They were ways to sync the nervous system and amplify intention and, frankly, fucking hack the consciousness. The Celts and the Mayans, they didn't have neuroscience, but they did have observation. And they knew October felt thin. They knew their dreams were wild, and they knew that the dead were close. So they built frameworks to work with it. And then here's the big kicker. What if our modern Halloween obsession, like the costumes and the candy and the haunted houses, is just a watered down echo of ancient practices that were actually portals into communion? Like, we've traded ancestor altars for spirit Halloween stores, but the energetic undercurrent hasn't gone away. Every year, as the leaves fall and the nights stretch longer, that old current wakes up. And it doesn't matter if you're conscious or not, you are in it. So, no, you're not crazy for feeling extra intuitive in October. You're not imagining that, that the dreams are more vivid and that you catch whispers out of the corner of your awareness and that the synchronicities stack higher. Cultures all over the world noticed the exact same thing and built entire traditions around it. The veil has always been thin this time of year. We just forgot why, and then we turned it into plastic skeleton decor. So let's just take a collective breath and honor that. Your ancestors survived long enough for you to be here, sipping your latte and listening to this podcast. They survived by listening to the land and to the cycles and to the subtle shifts. And they honored October because they knew what science is finally catching up to. When the world gets liminal, you become more permeable. And when you're more permeable, you're more psychic. Okay, bro, now we're going to rip the veil metaphor wide open and peek at it through the quantum lens because you know your girl loves her some spooky physics with a side of sass. So people toss around the veil like it is some sort of gauzy curtain between this world and the next. But if we translate that mystical language into quantum theory, it's actually a pretty solid metaphor for the nature of reality itself. So, in quantum physics, everything you see, your pumpkin spice latte, your neighbor's inflatable ghost, and your own body, is just a field of probabilities until consciousness interacts with it. Particles aren't sitting around like marbles waiting to be discovered. They're smeared out waves of possibility. So when an observer, you, shows up, the wave collapses into a specific outcome. That collapse is the veil. It's the moment that potential becomes actual. And now here's where October gets wild. Like, we're not just biological beings, we are electromagnetic vibrational beings. Your nervous system, your heart, your pineal gland, all of it is an electrochemical symphony interacting with the electromagnetic field of Earth. So in transitional seasons like October, that field shifts. solar wind, geomagnetic storms, changes in the light and atmospheric pressure. It is all data in the quantum field. So, in other words, your instrument is tuned differently in October. You're picking up more noise in the cosmic radio. And this isn't just woo. Like, even the CIA dipped their toes into it with the Gateway Project, which, if you don't know, you should know. Those declassified documents about hemispheric synchronization and remote viewing, they showed up that when both hemispheres of your brain are in coherent rhythm, like think of it like deep meditation or hypnotic states or altered states, people can access information outside ordinary time and space. In October, with its darker nights and its longer sleep cycles and its cultural rituals of reflection, it naturally nudges you into those brainwave states. So, theta and delta and even bursts of gamma, the brain frequencies associated with intuition and creativity and mystical experience, well, your brain basically becomes a quantum receiver. And then there's something called resonance theory, which I am obsessed with. It's the idea that consciousness isn't locked inside your skull. It's a field phenomenon which resonates with the environment. So when the Earth's Schumann resonance, which is its natural electromagnetic heartbeat, when it fluctuates, sensitive organisms like migratory animals, and yes, like you, we feel it. So during equinox adjacent months like September and October, the Schumann resonance is a little more variable. So if you've been feeling off or dizzy or dreamy or a little extra plugged in, congratulations. You are basically a walking quantum antenna picking up the Earth's mood swings. And now, what's happening subjectively when the veil thins? Well, the boundary between your conscious and subconscious minds get a little more permeable. So dreams and hunches and intuitive hits and even like impressions slip through easier because the signal to noise ratio is different. So think of it like your psychic Wi-Fi just upgraded from 3G to 5G for a few weeks. Like suddenly you are getting downloads in HD. And so I want to give you this. There is research out of Princeton's Global Consciousness Project showing that random number generators all over the world go slightly less random around collective emotional events. So, translation, consciousness seems to have a measurable effect on physical systems. In October, when millions of people are focused on death and ancestors and ghosts and liminality and mystery, you are swimming in a collective morphic field of spooky intention. And that field might actually help collapse more non-local information into your awareness. And that's why ancestral dreams and synchronicities and psychic spikes aren't just personal, they're collective phenomena. So when I say the veil is thin, I'm not just picturing a Victorian ghost fluttering through a cobweb curtain. I'm talking about the quantum foam of reality being more available to your perception. It's not that the dead suddenly break through a wall, it's that your consciousness becomes more fluid and more resonant with the field, and therefore more able to perceive what's always been here. But let's break it down. You're not getting haunted. You are getting tuned. You're not just suddenly a medium because October sprinkled fairy dust on your aura. You are a walking probability wave interacting with the collective frequency spike. And your ancestors, they're not just out there. They're right here in the field, in your DNA, in your subconscious. October just makes the radio static clearer. And here's the empowering part. You can work with this consciously. Meditation, binaural beats, grounding practices, and intention setting all act as dials on your quantum radio. So the more coherent your nervous system, the clearer the signal. And that means October isn't just spooky fun. It is prime time for actual downloads and remote viewing and dream incubation or even just creative channeling. So as you walk through those crunchy leaves under a hunter's moon, remember that the veil isn't some external mystical curtain. It is your own perceptual interface becoming more transparent. And that, my love, is quantum as fuck. This episode is supported in part by Sage App, aka the app that's basically a metaphysical multivitamin. It's like having a spiritual sanctuary in your pocket minus the incense smoke in your purse. It's also where I host my new moon manifestation clubs, which, if you know, we go deep. So if you're ready to stop doom scrolling and start soul scrolling, download Sage in the App Store or Google Play and then step into a more intentional, magical version of your day. That's SAGED, like Sage, but with an app. Back to the episode. All right, dude, let's talk meat suit. Because as much as I love waxing poetic about ancestors and quantum fields, at the end of the day, your body is the technology that you're working with. And October, bless her witchy little heart, tweaks your biology in ways that crank your intuition up to full blast. So, first stop, the pineal gland. It's that tiny little pine cone shaped gland buried deep in your brain that is basically your built in Stargate. It regulates your circadian rhythm, it produces melatonin, and according to some wild but fascinating research, it might even drip feed trace amounts of DMT, which is that infamous spirit molecule. Now, before you get too excited, no, you're not tripping just because it's October. But here's what is happening. As the days get shorter and you're more exposed to less sunlight, your pineal gland lights up its melatonin game. And that doesn't just make you sleepier, it makes your dreams more vivid and your inner world more active and your access to altered states smoother. So, translation, your brain is microdosing you into liminality every fucking night. And then there's the gut. Like, you've heard me say this before, your gut is your second brain. 90% of your serotonin is made there, and it is crawling with a microbiome that communicates directly with your nervous system through the vagus nerve. So, seasonal eating patterns, think heavier harvest foods and root vegetables and fermented stuff, it shifts your microbiome in October. And that means that your gut is literally changing its chemical conversation with your brain, which can heighten sensitivity and intuitive perception. So when you say, I feel it in my gut, that is not just metaphor. That is actually neurobiology. And speaking of the vagus nerve, let's give her some spotlight. So the vagus nerve runs from your brainstem down through your chest and into your gut like a cosmic antenna wired straight into your meat suit. So when it's toned, meaning you're breathing deeply and you're sleeping well and you're getting cold exposure from those crisp October mornings, it boosts your ability to detect subtle energy. So people with a higher vagal tone are not only more empathetic, they're literally better at sensing what's happening in the emotional field around them. Are they psychic? Well, maybe. Are they biologically empathic? Abso-fucking-lutely. And October's cooler temps and slower rhythm actually encourage vagal activation. So yeah, nature is conspiring to make you a better intuitive. And now let's zoom out. Your entire nervous system is basically an electrical circuit. So every cell in your body has a charge, and your heart in particular generates a magnetic field measurable several feet outside of your body. The HeartMath Institute has shown that when you are in a state of coherence, so gratitude and love and calmness, that heart field gets stronger and more stable. And guess what happens when the nights lengthen and you naturally slow down? Your spirit becomes primed for coherence. And that means that your signal gets clear and suddenly you are pulling in intuitive hits like a psychic satellite dish. But here's the kicker that most people miss. Your body isn't just designed to pick up psychic perception, it's designed to filter it. So think about it. If you were wide open to the quantum soup 24/7, you would be a puddle on the floor. But your biology sets up the guardrails, only letting certain impressions through where the conditions are right. And October just happens to be one of those conditions. That combo of melatonin surges and microbiome shifts and vagal activation and the collective focus loosens the filters just enough for you to notice more. And the veil isn't only out there, it is in your neurology, in your hormones, in your gut flora. But let me throw this in. Our ancestors who paid attention to these subtle signals were the ones who survived, the ones who got that gut feeling not to wander into the forest that night because something felt off. Yeah, that is your great great grandmother. Like, the body remembers, the body is wired for it. You're literally standing on an unbroken chain of humans who trusted their intuition. You are here because of psychic biology. So, when people try to tell you that intuition is fluffy or unscientific, hit them with this. My pineal gland is literally altering my perception with seasonal chemistry. My gut brain axis is rerouting neurotransmitters based on what's in harvest. And my vagus nerve is amplifying my empathy because of the cooler seasonal rhythms. And my heart field, it is syncing with the earth's resonance like an antenna. And that's not woo, that is design. That is biology proving that your psychic gifts aren't optional. They're your default setting. And honestly, October is when those settings get turned up to 11. Like the veil thins not because the cosmos decided to be extra witchy, but because your meat suit is a mystical machine built to ride the rhythms of nature. You're not just a spirit having a human experience. You are a human built to be spiritual. And October is just your annual firmware update. All right, so by now you know that October is basically the cosmic Coachella for your psychic senses. Like the lights are brighter, the music is louder, the crowd is bigger, which is fun and magical. But it also means that it's really easy to get overwhelmed and overextended or straight up fucking hijacked by other people's vibes. And that's why this segment is all about psychic sovereignty. It's being open without being porous, being connected without being consumed. And here's the unsexy truth. The more open you are, the more permeable you are. Your nervous system, your aura, your subconscious, they are all more receptive this month. And that is a gift, yes, but it's also an invitation for energy that is not yours to creep in. So think of it like having every window in your house open during a storm. You get the breeze, but you also get the debris. Psychic sovereignty is basically your storm screen. So, first up, we're going to talk grounding. Everybody talks about it like it's this cute little mindfulness exercise, but it's actually a bioelectric recalibration. So, when you touch the earth, barefoot, hands in the soil, hugging a tree, whatever it is, you are literally exchanging electrons with the ground. And that exchange balances your nervous system and stabilizes your heart's magnetic field. And if you do it daily in October, even if it's just 5 minutes, you're going to feel the difference. Second up, I want to talk a little bit about energetic hygiene. And this isn't about fear or protection spells, though if you're into into all that, sprinkle your salt boo. It is about calibration. Like after you have been around a lot of people or after you've done intuitive work, take a salt bath, do some breath work or shake out your body. My favorite thing is to dance. These are somatic ways of telling your system to reset, and your vagus nerve is going to thank you. And the third thing I want to talk about is discernment. Just because the channel is open doesn't mean that everything coming through is true or useful or yours. October's heightened sensitivity means that you might start picking up on the collective anxiety or ancestral trauma or even just random energetic noise. This is where your sovereignty comes in. Pause. Ask, is this mine? Is this useful? And does this resonate? And if it doesn't, let it pass. Your intuition isn't a trash can, it is a data stream. You get to choose what you download. And then let's talk about sleep because in October, your dreams are basically a whole other podcast episode waiting to happen. Like they'll be more vivid and more layered and sometimes more disturbing. So before bed, set an intention. Only messages for my highest good. Only dreams that I can integrate. This is like putting a filter on your psychic Wi Fi so you're not scrolling nightmare Twitter all night. Keep a journal by your bed. Write your dreams down first thing in the morning. And this isn't just cute little witchcraft stuff. This is how you train your brain to sort and file and integrate the flood of intuitive data that you're getting. And then another sovereignty hack that I have is just to simply breathe. Like slow, deep belly breathing not only calms your nervous system, but it also strengthens your auric boundary. The slower your breath, the clearer your heart field and the stronger your discernment. And science backs this up. Coherent breathing boosts the vagal tone, which in turn improves emotional regulation and intuitive accuracy. So, in other words, the calmer you are, the sharper your intuition gets. And please, please, for the love of your sanity, stay hydrated because water conducts electricity. Your entire nervous system is an electrical network. When you are dehydrated, your signal gets staticky. So, think of water as the fiber optic cable of your psychic Wi Fi. And then here's a fresh take. Instead of thinking of psychic protection as building a fortress, think of it as like just tuning your frequency. Like you're not hiding under a black cloak, you're becoming a firewall. High coherence repels low frequency noise. The stronger your signal, the less you have to shield. And that is sovereignty. And because we're sassy and practical here, if you're somebody who always cleanses but never anchors, stop it. Stop it right now. Cleansing without anchoring is like clearing your inbox but never actually answering the emails. So every time you reset your energy, also ground into your body and into intention. Anchor your frequency, claim your space. This is your spiritual posture. And one more thing. October is prime time for ancestor veneration and mediumship, but boundaries apply there too. Just because the veil is thin doesn't mean that you have to host an open mic night for every random spirit wandering by. Be intentional. Set an altar. Invite only specific ancestors or guides. Consent is sexy, even in the spirit world. So, psychic sovereignty in October looks like this: ground daily, calibrate your energy, filter your inputs, breathe slow, drink water, and be intentional about who or what you connect with. Like, you don't have to dim your gifts to stay safe. You just have to know how to drive the car you're in. Because here's the truth, dude: the veil isn't just thin between the worlds, it is thin between you and you. October is an incredible time to see where you've been giving your power away, or letting other people's energy run your system, or outsourcing your discernment. This is your annual reminder. Your intuition is yours, your channel is yours, and your sovereignty is your fucking birthright. This episode is brought to you in part by one of my most favorite humans on this spinning planet, Morgan Garza, and her book Soul Magic. If you've ever felt like your power was just waiting beneath the surface, or like there's something ancient and electric inside of you ready to be reclaimed, then this is the book that helps you remember. Soul Magic is not just a read, it is a summoning. It's filled with rituals and stories and the kind of grounded spiritual wisdom that doesn't talk at you, it talks with you. Morgan writes like a soul sister, a cosmic cheerleader, and a priestess all rolled into one. And it's a must-have for anyone on the path of awakening, reclaiming. So grab your copy at morgangarza.com or wherever books are sold, or bless someone else's journey and gift it, because real magic's meant to be shared. That's Soul Magic by Morgan Garza. You'll feel it in your bones. All right, here's the thing nobody tells you about October. Like, yes, the veil is thin between you and the dead, and between you and your guides, and between you and that spooky ass dream that makes you wake up at 3 a.m. dripping in sweat. But the veil is also thin between you and you. So, between your current self and your next self, between the you that clings to the old story and the you who is already whispering from the other side saying, "Come on, babe, it is time to evolve." So every October, nature herself demonstrates the blueprint. Trees drop their leaves, plants wither back into the soil, animals start shifting their patterns to prepare for the cold. Like, death isn't the end here, it is a doorway. And because you're a part of that ecosystem, not separate from it, no matter how many pumpkin cold brews you order, your psyche knows it's time too. Time to let something die. Like, maybe it's an outdated version of yourself, or maybe it's a habit that's been keeping you small, or maybe it's a belief that's been bleeding you dry. October is the season of release. And now, here's where it gets juicy. Every time you let something die, you open a portal for rebirth. The veil is thin not just so the dead can come visit you, but so that you can visit yourself, the future self, the expanded self, the self who already knows how to navigate the thing that you are struggling with right now. And October is a time where you can quantum leap into that version because your filters are down and your subconscious is more receptive. Like, think of it as an annual psychic update, like kind of like your iPhone, but instead of new emojis, you get access to deeper intuition and clearer vision and braver choices. And this is why shadow work hits harder in October. Like, the stuff that you've been avoiding, yeah, it is going to show up. Old trauma and old patterns and old fears, they rise like ghosts, not to haunt you, but to be seen and acknowledged and then integrated. Like, remember, the veil isn't just about the spirits of the dead. It's about the unseen parts of yourself. So when the veil thins, you get to meet them face to face. Like, you can keep pretending that they're not there, or you can pour them a metaphorical cup of tea and say, all right, what do you need from me so that we can move forward? And because we don't do airy fairy bypassing here, let's be real. The process is not always cute. Most of the time, it's messy. Sometimes it feels like a psychic hangover, like your heart is breaking wide open. But that is the cost of evolution. You don't get to skip death and still claim rebirth. You have to shed. You have to compost. You have to let your old leaves fall. But here's the empowering part. October is not asking you to be fearless. It's asking you to be honest, to look at what has expired in your life and to let it go with love, to stop carrying ghosts that are not even yours, to say yes to the portal, even when you don't even know what's on the other side. Because every ancestor who survived long enough for you to exist, they all walked through their own liminal doors, and now it is your turn. So, how do you consciously use October as your portal for self evolution? Well, start small. Light a candle for the parts of yourself that you're releasing. Write a letter to your future self that you're calling in. Sit under the moon and ask, what do I need to die so that I can live more fully? Pay attention to what comes up. Journal it, dream it, dance it. Whatever your practice is, make it intentional. And don't just let October happen to you, meet it. And then remember, evolution isn't about becoming somebody else. It's about remembering the truth of who you have always fucking been. The veil thins not to give you something outside of yourself, but to strip away the noise so that you can hear your soul more clearly. And that is the real magic. Not the spooky costumes, not the scary movies. The real magic is you, evolving in rhythm with nature, just like your ancestors did. So, as this October portal yawns wide, ask yourself, what am I willing to let die so that I can be reborn? What version of me is waiting just past the veil? And am I brave enough to answer her call? Because, babe, the veil is thin, and so are your excuses. If you loved this episode, be sure to hit that subscribe button and leave us a glowing review. It helps more beautiful souls like you find this space. Because your words matter, your energy ripples, and every review is like a little spell of support for the Synaptic Soul mission. So until next time, stay curious, stay cosmic, and keep waking the F up.